Welcome to another installment, another tale of stealing immortality on the Old Ways Twitch. We are part of Old Ways Entertainment, and I am its catalyst, Michael Diamond. My pronouns are he, him, and we're back to entertain you and likely see what happens when these three get involved. And so at the top of the show, I would just like to thank you, the listener, you, the watcher, and the Twitch subscriber. Those of you who are in our Twitch channel make all those wonderful chat moments possible. We greatly appreciate that as well. I would also like to give a special acknowledgement to the channel as it is receiving its first hype train tonight, which we are super excited about. Um, that said, I would like to also remind you that this is a game placed within, nestled carefully within the world of darkness. And because of it being in the world of darkness, the maturity on this is basically as high as it gets. So it's not a stream for kids. If you've got kids listening or watching in the background, please cover their eyes. Tell them to go, play Minecraft or do something else that is not adult related. That being said, I'm going to get to player introductions to my right.
Hi, this is Morgan, and I'm playing Geneviève de Montfort. Um, originally I'm having a brain. It's been a long day. I'm having a brain moment. Uh, I'm Lysambra now, and whatever I was before, which was probably I think Ventrue, which
Mm-hmm.
was
Yes.
Ventrue, was totally Ventrue.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. And last game, I got to go to confession, and that was exciting.
Yes, you and the bishop spent some time together, and I think everyone enjoyed themselves. So, welcome to Clan Lasombra. Enjoy the shadows and the tentacles. Um, Next to Geneviève.
Hi, I'm Bunny. I play the Toreador vampire. Wow, I almost called her a ghoulie. I just want to be one of you still. Um, the newest Toreador vampire, though that might be a problem for us later. Amarenzia, our pronouns are she, her. And hopefully this isn't my last night being embraced, since it's still my first night being embraced.
Sure, absolutely. I don't think it'll be your last. That's just my estimation, but we'll see. Who knows how things will play out. And last but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Allie, and I am playing Ophelia Sellos, a vampire and a kindred of the Bruja clan. And I was embraced last episode, and I was told to sit down, shut up, and listen. So,
Indeed, you were. Clan Bruja, especially during the Dark Ages, are quite collegiate, and many of them do enjoy opining about the old days, which frankly weren't that far off at this point. But that's no matter now. You're a vampire now. You're a member of Clan Bruja with that sort of volcanic blood inside of you, and we'll see how long it takes until you burst. We're going to begin tonight with Geneviève at the church. So this is a few days after our last episode. And as a reminder to all of you who are watching now, if you need to catch up on anything that we do, you can, of course, head over to our YouTube channel and you can get all the after episodes there because they only stay on video on demand here on Twitch for a little while. And then after that, you can find them over on YouTube. If you're a Patreon backer, which of course we greatly appreciate those of you who are, then you have the ability to go over and see our Upon Reflection series, which is sort of an after party. Streamlabs is totally not paying attention and playing nice with me today. So the command I issued to issue the Patreon link just didn't work, and that's because it's fun. So what we're going to do is we'll focus back in on our church, and as we do that, we will say that we'll say it's just becoming evening. And so this is an interesting time for you, Geneviève, especially because most of Clan Lasombra that's here, anyway, the ones that you've interacted with have been members of the kindred. You're really still only getting to know some of the retainers and ghouls that are here. So you don't pick up so much on what they seem to do. They actually don't pay a lot of attention to you. directly because they seem to be very busy working for their sires, their masters. There's an awful lot of we'll say martially trained individuals here. There do seem to be knights, um, men at arms, that sort of thing, who stand guard. And the one thing that you probably have picked up on in the first few days here is this church has a severe lack of mirrors. You don't find one in Isabel's room. You don't find one in any of the spaces you would normally find them. In fact, even when you think about it, even some of the spaces that the bishop and other members of the clergy use, they don't have mirrors here. And you're not really sure why.
Maybe they don't like the way they look.
Maybe, but a lot of the members of Clan of Summer that you've met are quite attractive. So
Isabella's pretty.
Isabella is pretty. Yep. Casilda,
Um,
Casilda isn't say as pretty, but she's attractive, and the bishop isn't handsome per se, but he's not some toad.
so do I know any of the kindred? I mean, after spending a few years, 3 years with the Ventru, would I know the kindred folklore? Is there anything surrounding mirrors?
Mm, you might know certain aspects of them. I don't know if you have any occult or specifically vampire lore that you could draw on. If you do, you can certainly roll. I would give it to you with an occult roll, but it would be a slightly higher difficulty threshold for you to pick up on a clan weakness.
Is it intelligence occult?
Yep, it would be intelligence occult.
Okay. Just one.
Okay. Well, there are rumors, many folklore rumors, especially that um, vampires are subject to all sorts of different problematic social situations. One of which might be that they don't cast a reflection. But that can't be true of all of them because Antonio does. And then you think about it and you realize it's been a few days, and the thought of his name it sort of pricks a memory in you. You don't know why. Like your brain recognizes his name and you associate that piece of lore with having learned it. And then as your brain sort of tries to hunt to put together other pieces, you realize that you just can't make that connection. It's like trying to hold on to jello.
But I do have a memory of some other of a man that casts a reflection.
Yes. And you have seen other kindred in other spaces certainly cast reflections. Namely, um, some of the people that you encountered at the Eprius's villa. There were certainly mirrors in that place, and many of them cast reflections. You don't know why there isn't any here, and you wonder if maybe that's something that's clan specific. It's something you could certainly ask about, but it's not something that at this point Isabella has gone over with you.
I could probably go ask my good friend Stanya.
You could, certainly your good friend. You could
Mm.
certainly ask her.
We're really good friends. So maybe I'll wander around the church and see if I can find her.
Okay, you wander for a bit. You eventually find her back preparing candles. for potentially a service or something. There's about 50 or so candles that she seems to be preparing for. Um, you're not really sure what, but they're all in a line, like they're all in grid lines as she's tapering wicks and getting them ready.
Oh, Stanya, just the person I was looking for.
She looks over at you. Yes.
Do you need some help with what you're doing?
Certainly. She sort of gestures broadly to a few of the candles here that don't look like they've had their wicks trimmed properly. We just want them about this high. She sort of shows her with her thumb and forefinger. I'm sure you've tapered a few candles before.
Many in my day.
Hmm. She
So
continues about her work.
I was hoping, I start helping trimming wicks and so on and so forth. Um, I was hoping you could help me with something that saying the Morte Ascendo. Where did you get that saying from? What's
Oh,
the history?
it is a clan motto. It is a belief to ascend even in the darkness, from the darkness. You've experienced perhaps a little bit of the moving shadows that the clan is known for.
I have.
We reach out and touch oblivion. We call to it. It answers. She sets a candle down and goes to the next one.
No, Isabella didn't talk to me about the clan motto. No.
I think for many new bloodlines, it can be difficult to understand. Not that you are without your own methods of understanding things, but this world is one of the supernatural, the unknown, and things which reach out and take hold through that emptiness, that darkness. You can actually tell, like, as she talks, the room is getting darker, like genuinely darker. And it's not just that the sun is just about set.
But she's only a ghoul, right?
Hmm.
She wouldn't have access to the.
Well, that depends. So you have been a ghoul long enough to know that some ghouls and retainers who are kept for long periods of time can be taught certain powers, certain abilities through their blood. Um, but it usually takes some time to be able to express them as a ghoul. Whereas members of the kindred society, the power of the blood is much stronger. And so it's easier for them to utilize. It wouldn't be without possibility for Sanya to be able to express the clan discipline. In fact, if she did, it might be seen as a good omen for her eventual embrace.
No, I'm impressed. Seems like you already hold a little bit of the power.
She turns to like look at you, and you realize that her eyes like have gone completely black, colorless. The whites remain, but for those of you who need a modern day reference, she's gone full Beta Z. So she has completely black eyes. Um, this is also another trait that isn't uncommon within the clan. You have seen others here who have that same sort of effect.
I don't let it phase me. They're living and living as a ghoul for the last 3 years. But I've seen and done a lot, so her black eyes don't.
You don't think that she's specifically trying to scare you, um, because you don't feel like she's exerting any sort of social force with what she's doing. But it's undeniable that she's making some sort of point.
That she has more power than me.
That could be one point that she's making, yes.
With great power comes great responsibility.
And not in this house. That's not the way
Okay.
the clan
No,
of
that's
Samba
true.
works.
There's
With great
um
power comes power, and then more
power.
power. That's how Clan Lasamba works.
Um yeah, I turn and look at her and what else can you tell me about the clan? Like the history? Is there any interesting folklore that you might have heard the normal
Certainly.
humans talk about?
Yes, certainly. The one most advertised within our kindred community is the, she sort of looks around, lack of reflective services. It's said that when our our progenitor was created, that God and Cain looked at them and were ashamed that they'd made such a beautiful creation. She smiles very broadly. And so Cain chose to strip them from every mirror so as to not make them any more filled with the hubris we already are. And so, yes, it is very common for us to eschew reflective services. It's also important to remember that should you someday be blessed to fully join the clan, much like I hope to be, that it is something that will always mark you. And so you must be careful to not let it reveal your nature. It is why so many in the clan have retainers and ghouls. We cannot simply look into a mirror and see ourselves. We must have others, lessers, who take care of us.
No, well that make that makes sense.
You all finish up with the candles, and then she gestures to a small, medium sized crate. And she says, "We'll place them in there, and then we'll prepare. With the sun down now, you should go to Isabella's chambers and prepare her for the evening. It's going to be quite auspicious."
What is going on this evening?
Oh, we're going to attend a conclave, one which
Oh,
you'll undoubtedly enjoy.
oh, okay. I finish up what I'm doing. I go back to Isabella's chambers.
You find Isabella in bed and beginning to rise for the evening. You have to hustle to get her prepared. She's uh, certainly very excited to get dressed. There's a spring in her step, almost a joy that you're not familiar with at all.
Bella,
Yes, she answers.
what is the conclave? regarding this evening?
Oh, I see someone has done a little research. She glides herself into the black garment that she's going to wear, and you begin working through the string and eye portions of her corset. The council is meeting for conclave, the city of Constantinople. They are going to issue a sentence for the destruction of the Latin Quarter. They are going to hold the parties responsible.
Oh, well, that's good.
Indeed. Indeed. We were lucky that some of Clan Toreador and some of Clan Zamit's decided that an agreement between our clans was useful. We at one point did keep a large portion of our clan in the Latin Quarter for various reasons. And so we moved them when the disruptions began. That's why so many of us are here now. But it is dangerous to keep so many members of the clan under one house.
What is it you need me to do this evening?
Oh, I need you to prepare yourself properly. I need you to be ready to watch and learn.
I can do that.
Wonderful. Go and prepare yourself as a lady would. She sort of turns away and heads out, where a few of her other, what look like retainers, begin, like one hands her like a sheaf of paper, and the other begins whispering to her about something. She has like an entire retinue that she goes through. And so I will leave you to get ready, but what I'd like to know is if you know what Geneviève is going to prepare her. So how are you going to prepare yourself?
Well, she means prepare myself like a lady. She means wash myself. And so I will bathe in probably some lavender and other oils to make myself smell pleasant. And I will put on a cotton, a light cotton dress.
Mhm.
Something plain.
Okay. So I won't belabor the point, but
Yep.
light color, dark color, which one are you going for?
Probably a lighter color, like a off-white.
Perfect. Okay. So I will leave you there, and then we are going to fly not too terribly far from the church through the air of Constantinople's temples and museum district, and we're going to stop into the villa of the Dama and perhaps see what Emerenzia has gotten up to. So for Emerenzia, it has been a couple of days now. We've had a couple of nights as a member of Clan Toreador. You have been properly presented. That went good. Maybe.
Did it?
I mean,
Was that good?
did you die?
No, but I left the Dama in a position that sounded very precarious for the both of us.
Yes. The sort of some of the after echoes of that are the Dama explaining some things to you about how the upper echelons of kindred society, but mostly Clan Toreador work. There are only so many spaces for so many artists. And when she was referencing having already requested and gotten approval for your creation. She tells you the backstory, which is that many years ago here in the city, there were other problems within the Latin Quarter several years ago. And several members of Clan Toreador were swept up in some of the riots that happened, and several met their final death. And so each clan is sort of given an accounting of what the city can provide as far as numbers. That's why, with the concern of a lot more people coming into the city from the western part of what used to be the Roman Empire, but is now the Byzantine Empire, the big concern for them, especially Clan Toreador, seems to be because of Michael and his presence here. He is a beacon for the entire clan. And the concern is that too many people are being made. And she explains to you that, a couple of years after this issue, before the two of you really arrived here, they had issued an edict that said that no more members of Clan Toreador were allowed to be created until there was some sort of general accounting that had gone through. And she thought, and she believed that she had permission. So you get the political explanation.
That makes sense. But she and I are okay for right now.
You seem to be.
Okay. Then I'll keep partying it up with her. Like, we're not in a precarious position.
Yeah. The next couple of nights that the two of you spend together, you spent out amongst the gardens of many of the different villas. You go and meet a lot of members of Kindred Society that you'd never seen before. And she explains to you that seeing some of these people and other members of the clans are only possible because you're a member of the clan now. Ghouls are not allowed in these spaces for certain reasons. Some of those reasons could be that they might get consumed by accident. So you do end up meeting, we'll say, 2 or 3 members of Clan Toreador that are, we'll say, he's not as important as the person you met, Patronus that you met the other night, but reasonably important, right? So you're getting into some of the more social fabric that's here on the Kindred side, and it's pretty rewarding. You also realize how well connected the Dama is to so many things. And during one of these visits, she enlightens you that she is going to need you to make contact with a somewhat obscure member of Kindred Society. And she says it has to do with what happened at the villa and what was taken from the villa, specifically what you took for her.
All right.
She says that there is a kindred, a member of Clan Tremere, that I'll need you to speak with. She's taken out a sheaf of paper and a pen, and she begins going through the rigorous portion of writing something out. It looks like she's writing in French, very sweeping languages. And she writes probably 2 or 3 sentences. And as she's writing, she says, you must understand that Clan Tremere is young.
Sure.
You also must understand that they are dangerous because of who they are. Her name
I could see that.
Her name is Theodora.
Theodora.
She rolls the sheaf of paper up after making sure that it's dry. And then she takes a ribbon, like from her, like the sleeve of her outfit. It comes off.
Mhm.
It's maybe a half an inch wide, but like, 12 or 15 inches long. And she begins just weaving this bow on top of it. And then she hands it to you.
Mhm. I will take it, but does everyone know which of us took? I mean, how many people know what I took for you? How should I play that for you?
She sits back in the carriage as you're getting closer to the villa. It's difficult to say how many people might know. I suspect, based on the voices and the tales that I have heard, I expect that at least 2 or 3 people are aware. Thomas, this gangrel, has reported some things back, it's my understanding, to one of the members of Clan Bruja. Probably
Mm.
some details that we did not necessarily want to get out into the open. Thomas is a chivalrous member of his clan, but he's also a troublemaker when he wants to be.
It's hard to picture the man that I met that night as a troublemaker.
Oh, it simply depends on which side of the fence you're talking. If we're trying to
That's
be
fair.
covert and we're trying to be aloof, and she sort of waves her hand back and forth, almost as dismissive. Some sort of knight gets in the way and begins talking about virtue and honor and loyalty and respect. Well, there's very little wiggle room there, and you do know how I like to wiggle.
Mhm.
So
I do. That is fair. I mean, when he dug us a hole to get into the vault, he neatly folded his clothing and set them off to the
she
He
chuckles.
is so intense in
Mm.
everything he does. I can definitely see how that could be its own kind of trouble.
Yes. Yes. It's more than that, though. I believe the nature of this blood is one which is dangerous to know. This blood is very old, and if it is even remotely who I think it might be, it could be the key to doing many things within the city or preventing many things from being done. But to do so, we must know the veracity, the power therein. And although I do not personally keep any usurpers as friends, these Tremere are useful. And it is important that we use those who are useful.
We have had a lot of fun uses for people over the years. But yes, of course, sorry. I will absolutely speak with Theodora for you. Should we be concerned that she knows about this? So, I mean, dangerous new clan, secret if it had gone smoother. But I'm not sure I could have gotten out of there um, without anyone ever finding out. I'm not sure how possible that could have been, but
No, I think that that's part of the game. Part of the game for Thomas and for others, and knowing that we were there, is that, yes, they know we were there. But that also means that they were there to see we were there. And so, should they choose to exert leverage with that knowledge, they play their hand into the open. And Eprius's people and the rest of his clanmates could simply turn to Clan Gangrel and say, "You were here in this villa, and how did they get into the vault exactly? How did you know?" Many questions could be asked. And so while I don't think it is leverage that Thomas would press against us, I do think it is important to note that he chose to divulge that to his friend, Kalias the Bruja, our partner in
Yeah.
this. And so the second part of what I'll ask you to do for me, my dear, is I'm going to ask you to connect with Ophelia and take her
Oh,
along on this little voyage across town. I think it might be fun. You can reminisce about old times, and that Bruja could potentially serve as a shield in case the Tremere gives you any sort of trouble.
oh, she would be very good at that. The way that she literally sprung into action
Hmm.
when my arm was being raked by teeth to get those vials. She is cat-like. She is incredible. So yes, I could see her use as a shield. But it'd also just be nice to see her again. She was an interesting companion.
Hmm.
A little less of the party type, like Geneviève was.
Speaking of Geneviève, it's been made aware to me that her sire, Antonio, has met with a difficult and troubling set of circumstances.
Oh,
He's missing and has been missing for days now from his villa. The villa was wrought with gore and blood. Many, many people were taken from there in a litter and dumped into one of the many cisterns. I do not know if Geneviève survived.
oh, I see. I quite liked her.
It is possible she survived, but with Antonio gone, and rumor has it that the villa could be taken by a number of the members of the clan, it makes me wonder what happened to him.
Is that something you'd like me to investigate for you?
I would, much as the three of you were tied together before you became immortal, she smirks.
Hmm. I wonder if that
These,
happened for Geneviève before he went missing.
it's possible, but those threads bind you together still.
Marenzia will sort of blush a little bit and very quietly say, not bad women to be braided up with.
I agree. You get to the villa, and the retainers here help you out of the carriage. And as you step into the open space of the villa, there is a ghoul who is on his knees in front of the door with a folded up letter, almost like waiting as a mail carrier, just sitting there waiting. And the Dama walks past him, and without just even more than a subtle glance, she plucks the note from his hands and runs just the tip of her finger across his chin as she continues her pace towards the back of the house. And you see her like opening up this message.
She's so cool. God, I love her so much.
She gets about halfway down the large space. You can hear the background being filled by just some subtle voices, ones you would probably not have picked up on before, but ones you probably in your life as a ghoul heard often. There was always a flutter upstairs of activity when the Dama returned because everyone is beginning to spring into action to make sure that they're ready for her. And she stops like halfway towards the back of the house where the garden is. And she turns just half on her boot heel and stares down at the letter. And then folds it back up. We are being called to council.
Oh, what? You'll have to forgive me. I'll get used to this eventually. How does one prepare for that circumstance?
They are calling all members of the Kindred Society and within Constantinople to the conclave to hear uh, about a judgment that is going to be handed down about the situation in the Latin Quarter. They
Oh,
are formally punishing Kindred.
I see.
We will serve as witnesses. It is a social call, one of high importance, which means we must dress and prepare. We will take something from the Persian catalog, veils, light clothing,
Mm.
perhaps some bells, small ones.
Oh, I do like that. All right. Um, I will prepare as you have specified. Do you think that means that Ophelia and Genevieve will be there? If Genevieve is alive still?
If it is possible that she might be there, if she is still alive. Um, the judgment conclaves are generally reserved for kindred. There are a few retainers which are allowed, but because of the space, it's important to reserve that for members of immortality. Now,
I see.
go and get dressed.
I will be back with bells on.
Hmm.
They'll chuckle and
After
she'll
you're
get
dressed,
ready.
though, meet me in my quarters. I'll want your assistance preparing.
Of course.
Okay.
I'll see you soon, Adelaide. She'll say cheekily and sort of try to catch a glance.
Yeah, she raises her eyebrow at you using her first name, but there isn't any complaint per se. So we'll move camera as you get your bells and potentially whistles on. We'll move camera to Ophelia, who is really just, again, experiencing the first couple of nights as a member of Kindred Society. So you listened and paid attention in Bruja class. I guess that's sort of the best way to put it. Um, it was boring. Um, it is a bunch of, well, relatively large collection of dusty old men debating how the old days were way better than the new days, and how if things were just like they were in the old days, then they'd still have control of things. Stop me if y'all have heard this one before. So, um, that said, there is some wisdom in some of the things that they talk about, right? Certainly, stories of Carthage get bandied about, probably by more than one speaker. Um, you learn things about Carthage you didn't know, which is helpful for lore reasons. You learn that there was a symbiotic relationship between the kindred who were in Carthage and the people of Carthage. The people of Carthage knew that there were immortal masters above them. And the vampires didn't take those who didn't want to be fed from. There was an agreement. And the kindreds who were there kept Carthage safe until until Rome came calling, until Rome wanted to rule. And that sort of is the part of the um, opening salvo between Clan Venture and Clan Bruja. And it all goes downhill from there. And it's still going on now. Although, because of the way the city of Constantinople works and that Michael is in charge along with the council, the Venture here don't have enough power to exert over Clan Bruja. They do it in tiny, subtle ways, which you learn about, right? So you learn that they help stage some of the problems within the Latin Quarter that Clan Bruja, the Lexar Bruja, eventually complain about. And you also realize that there are steps the Clan Bruja could have taken, but they chose not to. And there is some worry amongst the clan there in the Senate that they might be held accountable for what they did or didn't do. And after a couple of nights of steady debate, a speaker comes to the floor in the forum there and announces that tonight there will be a conclave of judgment held in the palace, and that all kindred are required to attend. And the next sentence chills you to your bones. You feel it even through your pale and cold flesh. The speaker says that Michael may make an appearance and pass judgment personally. There are many older Bruja here who are a little unsettled at that idea. Callius is probably not visibly concerned, but you know the pantomime of your master really well. And so you know that it's pretty clear that he would probably not be comfortable with that idea. The Senate then adjourns.
And I will go to his side, obviously.
Not that you left it, really.
No. Not if he was like having me sit down while he stood or something to that extent, but how do we prepare?
There isn't much for us to do. Truly. We will do as we are required. We will arrive. We will hear the charges. The important part that you understand is that there is no debate. It is the thing which we chafe at the most. There is no discussion. This is the difficulty when it comes to having someone like Michael, when he is not in torpor, awake. He may pass any number of summary judgments, and those who are beholden to him will carry them out. No one will say an ill word to him. Few can even speak with him without being terrified about his presence. He does not appear as you and I do. If he does make an appearance, you will know the difference. He is rumored to be several thousand years old. He may be one of the most powerful kindred on earth that still wakes.
When was the last time that he made an appearance?
It's been several years. He puts himself into self-imposed sleep. Torpor, as we call it. Long sleeps. It is a long and difficult tale, one I will tell you at some point, but there are matters of the heart which are difficult for Michael. There are matters which he wrestles with. Now, let us proceed to the palace. We will document, and should we be allowed to offer commentary, we will. But I tell you this, child, do not look him in the eye.
Understood, Master.
He picks up, the scrolls and puts them into cases that he has and secures them, and then proceeds to walk to the palace, which is where most of our kindred are going to end up, including perhaps even one ghoul. So as the three of you begin to make your way to the palace, you're seeing more foot traffic and more carriage traffic than you can remember seeing. Now, it is deep into the night at this point. Emeranzia, you and the Dama have made all the proper social cues with your clothing. It's clear that she needed your personal touch, putting some of her last minute items on, which the two of you greatly enjoyed. You both shine in the moonlight that's available and make just ever so slightly a jingling sound when you walk. It's very pleasing here on the cobblestones and amongst the cut stones here of the palace, as one by one, tiny little groups of shadows get closer and closer. So what I am going to do now for myself and the cast is we are going to take a short break, because I even remembered to break tonight. And so we're going to step away for just a couple of minutes. We're going to let the cast stretch. We encourage you to do so. We're going to go ahead and we're going to run a short ad, and then we'll be back. So don't go anywhere, because the conclave comes next. Welcome back, everybody. So hopefully you enjoyed your break, got a chance to get up and stretch, get the blood pumping as necessary. Hopefully the players did as well, because we have all sorts of fun in store for you. So we're going to kick off the second part here. And again, it's just a reminder, as it is a story within the world of darkness, it's meant for a mature audience. So kids, plug your ears and go do something else. It also means that anything, well, almost anything could happen. So fun times ahead. The palace itself, for our visitors to it who have never been, which would be all three of you, is an enormous structure. It is something to behold, truly. The finery, the tile mosaics, the colored glass, all of the different things which could possibly be put into a structure fit for Constantine himself are here. There are very few torches, but there are some. There are also some lanterns to keep a guiding light where you need to go. And you get escorted through different halls, whether it be by your sire or whether it be by the occasional member of the house guard that's here, to a secure location within the depths of the palace. You come upon a wonderful cut stone staircase, which winds down in the long and twisting circular fashion. It feels like a descent into Paradise Lost. As you go down level by level, the lights get fewer and fewer until your singular light is left. And so after many levels, you are dumped into a single hallway, which stretches for a considerable amount of space and time. It probably takes a good 5 minutes just to walk the hall. You do end up seeing one another in this circular staircase. In fact, Ophelia, you likely hear Emerenzia and the Dama because the jingle of their outfits is impossible to miss. Geneviève, you are likely behind all of them, certainly behind members of Clan Lasombra who are here, who are kindred. But they are keeping you between Isabella and Cassilla. And you can see and feel sort of Cassilla at your back, giving you little bits of knowledge along the way about how, this space was specifically carved for our kind to walk and to meet Michael in the heart of the depths of the palace, and only kindred are allowed here and during certain times. And in general, it's used for, X, and, the mortals who are in the palace above are kept hidden away from this space lest they be consumed. She talks about all sorts of just wild shit as you're walking your way down. It sounds like a really scary place to potentially find yourself during the daytime, because you're fairly certain that they have their own sort of roving ghouls that run around in here and make sure the space stays nice and secure. But this passageway that the three of you eventually find yourself in leads to an underground cathedral. It's expansive. It is a bit of a throwback to something built maybe hundreds of years ago. There is iconography here. There are certainly crosses. And there are certainly in these little spaces, these little insets in the wall, there are tiny candles that offer some just momentary portions of ambiance and light. But you all have to strain your eyes a little bit, except for perhaps one of you who sees perfectly well in the dark and without issue. And I bet we have no idea. The audience has no idea who that is. So I wonder, the person who can see clearly in the dark, I'll just let them know, because I don't want to spoil it, because it might be a trick they may play later. I'll say that you see an awful lot of kindred who seem to be sort of filing in and then staying to the wall. They're staying as far away from a lot of the Christian iconography as they can. They're moving, as people filter in, they're moving further and further away from it. And then eventually, the group gets to the center portion of this cathedral, which doesn't have the standard lines and aisles of pews. It has a semicircle, almost auditorium style seating that's been placed into it and cut into the ground. And then at the bottom of it, of these 3 or 4 levels, there is a enormous, probably 20 to 30 foot around circle that has coals and some small sort of simmering logs that give the space a little bit of ambient light and heat. Not that any of the creatures, well, most of the creatures down here don't even need it. Because after all, those of you who are kindred, your bones are cold anyway. Emerenzi, you'd notice that the Toreador Patronus is here. He's down front. He is draped in what looks like white and purple robes. He seems very stately. He also seems pensive. He gives off an aura of concern.
Interesting. I might keep an eye on this character for a little bit longer.
Ophelia, The clan Bruja mostly sticks together. They stick together at one portion of the seating. They file in. There's maybe 7 or 8 members of them, including you and your sire. It is pretty common to all of you to see that sort of regimenting going on. And so as the proceedings begin to start, they start with the like a chorus of people singing. They're singing a song in Latin that speaks of a time in memoriam when members of the Kindred Society came together and helped shepherd the souls to the Lord. There's a lot of vaguely religious aspects to the song, but it seems to be tinged with um, clearly kindred tones.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's wild. After the singing stops, some of the members of that chorus begin to filter back into the crowd and the seating. And one of them is a member of Clan Lastambra, and they sit not too terribly far from you, Geneviève. I wonder, Emerenzia and Ophelia, if you would make me, actually all 3 of you for that matter, can make me wits and alertness rolls to see who you see.
And I imagine my my specialization will kick in for
Yeah,
here.
certainly will.
Okay.
One success.
Yeah, I've got to go real quick. There's a cop at my door.
Sure. Do your thing. Don't let him in. Sorry. Just reflex.
Don't comply in advance.
That's right.
It's fine. Oslittle will just fill in as
Yes.
Maria in the meantime.
Yes. Emerenzia being played by Oslittle. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems fair.
Do you still want my roll, or do you just want us to all give our rolls when Morgan gets back?
No, go ahead and give your rolls. We'll play through. I'm sure that Morgan Morgan can handle that. I know it.
Yeah. I have 5 successes.
Okay, so a couple of things. You make out fairly clearly where Emerenzia and her sire, you assume that's her sire, is sitting. You also make out that Geneviève is here. And you also make out that they are sitting with somebody you don't recognize.
Okay.
Welcome back, Morgan.
They had the wrong house.
Damn right they did.
I was like, all right.
Is that what you said to them? Sorry to break character here, but did you say that? Did you open the door and say you got the wrong house?
No, but that's what the cop said to my husband. It's like, oh, we have the wrong house. You know, in my town of like 9,000 people.
Right.
Like, you don't want them rolling up on your door. Anyways, I got 5 successes.
You did. There's 2 people with 5 successes. Fantastic. So, Geneviève, you make out where Emerenzia and you believe, well, you actually know that that's her sire because you could see that you've met the Dama before, at least in passing, at the villa, and you make out Kalias and Ophelia. And for you, Emerenzia, you notice there's a whole lot of people here. But you think you see Ophelia sitting with Clan Bruja over there.
But Geneviève is not sitting with people I'd expect her to sit with.
You haven't made her out. You need a success per
Okay.
person. So you don't make out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. That makes sense. I will go say hi to Ophelia.
Okay. Play on. Feel free.
Everyone seems to be sticking sort of close to the walls. So Emerenzia will skirt along the outside of the room over to Ophelia. A pretty bruja. Fancy meeting you here.
Yes, it's only a meeting for all kindred.
But last time I saw you, neither of us were. So it's still fancy to see you here.
Yes, it's lovely to see you. How's your unlife treating you?
It has been intense, I think is an appropriate word no matter who you are, actually. Hold on. It has been good, I think, overall. Did you? I do want to ask you about something because it has been concerning me. The Dama mentioned that Geneviève might have disappeared. I mean, she definitely disappeared, but she might have gotten killed and that her
She's not dead.
sire's
She's right
missing.
over there.
Oh. I
And
will
I'll
look
point her
where
out.
she pointed.
Yeah, that's her.
Oh, fantastic. I did hear that her sire disappeared, though, and his whole estate was killed or is missing also.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, Antonio's been missing since the night that we all were busy. I was just worried about her. But
Yeah,
I'm glad she's here. I'm glad you're here. I know we're not all of the same clan, but as the Dama mentioned to me, we are sort of all tied together. There are threads between us. So,
well, yes. I mean, we did all survive kind of a terrifying and horrible encounter. We can go say hi to her before festivities get started. Festivities, loosely worded, but I'm kind of excited.
I'm glad one of us is excited. I'm not sure how to feel about tonight.
Whatever, pardon me. Well, whatever the sentence is, I hope it is severe because they raided my home, attempted to kill my sire, killed a bunch of people that I have gotten to know over time.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I am excited.
No, Ophelia, of course. I just, I want the people who did that brought to justice. I just mean this very, the like group punishment on display experience. The public execution scene has never been where I want to be. And also just worrying about things like, I know that we're a very political, society forward group. And you never, I don't want to say this too loudly. There's just sometimes you're sure they got the people that did the thing. And sometimes they're really convenient scapegoats. And things like this, I never know which it'll be, though you just have to trust the judgment of the people doing it. So
yes,
I hope they get the people.
Yes, I'm also hoping that it is the right individuals. The concern is that Michael might be here.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's go say hi to Geneviève.
Yes, I'm so glad to see her. I was looking forward to trying to find you, but it's such a relief to see her as well.
And I'll I'll just nod to my
sashay away.
master and follow Emerenzia. Like, I'll be back for when, proceedings and everything start. But
Yeah, you certainly catch your master's glance when you walk away with Emerenzia, but he doesn't seem to differ in his opinion or seek to stop you. And so Emerenzia is not going to be able to lead you there. You're going to have to lead her to
yeah,
Geneviève.
and I will lead the way to Geneviève, and I will tap her very lightly on the shoulder.
Well, let's slow your roll there, my friend.
Dang.
You begin to move around. You have to move around the seating here, right? So this is
Yeah, that's
auditorium style, so you're not going to be able to go directly to them. You're going to have to go back up the way you came. And then after you come back up the way you came, you go around to the other side where you saw her sitting. When you arrive there, you realize that this space is far darker than the rest of the amphitheater cathedral that you're sitting in. And you're being intently watched as you arrive. When you get close to where she's sitting, there are a few figures in front of you. They seem to be dressed in tabards. They have belts on. They're not armed with any swords, but they look as if they are members of like a Templar society. And they are a physical wall in front of where this group of people is sitting. You wouldn't know who the clan is because you're not yet. It's not so easy like it is in the modern Knights with lores and icons. The crests and stuff like that are far different in the Dark Ages. But that's what you encounter first. There's a 4 or 5 people that are sitting near Geneviève right now. There's a much older man who's sitting in front, sort of in this lead. And then there are 2 women sitting directly behind him. And they're dressed in sort of like French courtesan, high society outfits. Long flowing dresses, long flowing sleeves, sort of that French style of dresses from the era. And then there's a line of people behind them, probably 4 or 5. And in that line is where Geneviève is sitting. And so you encounter these men first.
May I get by?
They one of them leans forward, a raven-haired man who has a scar that runs from his left eye around to his ear. You are?
I'm Ophelia Sellos, Clan Bruja. I wanted to say hello to Geneviève.
Geneviève. The man looks a little puzzled for a second. He turns and you hear him repeat something. Who here speaks Spanish? If anybody.
Me.
Okay, Ophelia. You hear him say,
Me.
"Who is this Ophelia?" in Spanish. And you see one of the women turn, a dark-haired woman turn, and she looks up at you and stands up. And you realize that she's fairly tall. She's put together. I think that's really the best way I'll put it on stream. And she arrives on the scene. And so this gets a reaction from you, Geneviève, because Isabella stands up and turns left, like to move with purpose somewhere.
I follow her with my eyes.
You follow her with your eyes, and she stands next to Pietro, who is someone who watches sort of as a retainer, watches the bishop. And then you see the forms of Emerenzia and Ophelia beyond Pietro.
Yeah, I go to stand up to walk over to them.
The woman with dark hair says, "May I help you?"
Oh, we just wanted to say hello to Geneviève.
She turns back to you. Do you know these people?
I do. These are my dear friends Ophelia and Emerenzia.
She cocks an eyebrow at the word dear friends. Well, don't be too long. She turns
Yes,
back
sire.
and sits down. Pietro moves aside a little bit to give you space. And the
I
three of
pulled them
you.
aside. Do I notice any differences in them from before?
So there are definitely differences. Emerenzia is definitely different. She's wearing different clothes, that's for sure. She's jingling and whatnot. I don't want to give away the game with any of them, so I'll let them explain how they look now as kindred. It's also me as a storyteller giving them agency to describe themselves rather than me describing them.
Okay. So I look almost exactly the same. The only difference is that the majority of my skin is a little bit more pale. But if you were looking at just my face, you wouldn't think anything was different because I still have like a tinge of life to my cheeks. I still have like it looks like a flush of skin in my cheeks and my neck. But like when you look at like my hands and my arms, they are pale as all get out. The contrast is a little bit stark, but I'm still my, 4'10", moderately long, like darker brown hair with brown eyes and like a very soft face still. I do look a little different, almost a little like dewy in the face, like a little glowy, because being embraced has agreed with me very well.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you would notice that like you don't remember Ophelia having that much girl had glow up. That's what it is. And it's this thing is working for her, whatever it is.
I also don't imagine Emerenzia actually is that significantly different, all things considered. Like her being paler might be a little bit more noticeable, just with her olive skin and everything. Her being so pale might be less glow up and more anemic, but yeah, I think, oh gosh, I don't honestly think that Emerenzia has changed too dramatically outwardly. Inward change, I'm hoping to share with my last ghoulie, but outward, um, I truly think that she would have stayed mostly very similar. If I'm being
Cool.
Sorry. um, they. I'm sorry, Michael.
No, don't be sorry. It's your description.
Yeah, I think. I think the glow up is yet to come. That's how I'll put that.
As it should be for all of us. So yeah, that's what you see.
What are you guys doing here?
We're here as part of the audience.
I mean, me too, if it wasn't obvious, but
Yeah.
I am surprised by the section we found you in.
what do you mean?
Well, pretty sure this isn't Clan Ventru.
Yeah, and Antonio's nowhere to be seen.
Antonio?
Your sire?
Your master? The man you were serving at the time that we went on our mission?
The hottie that you were definitely obsessed with last time I talked to you?
Geneviève, make a willpower roll. Your fellow ghoulies are out for you.
I get 3.
Okay, so not enough to beat the current forgetful mind that's been placed on you as far as the dominate goes, but likely enough to make you wonder. Wait, who are you talking about? You get some faded memories of being in the garden space in back of a man's villa and sitting at his feet and taking dictation and hearing his voice. But it's like someone talking to you through a pool of water. It never really truly comes together. But there's a memory there. There's nothing that seems to connect to him. The image, and when you try to form the image of his face, it's totally and wholly obscured. Um it's as if a screen has been put between you and his face, and you're not allowed to view it. You're not allowed to see it, but you can see the after images and the reflection of it. There's a figure there. You just don't know who that is.
Oh, my sire is Isabella. You talked with her. Uh, Antonio, if he was anything, he was just a phase.
I'm going to shoot a concerned look at Ophelia.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, please.
Well, are you okay?
Yeah, what? Why wouldn't I be? I'm exactly where I need to be. Muerte ascendo.
So Genevieve says Morte Ascendo, and the group of men who are serving as retainer and bodyguards say it in sync. But they don't say it loud. They don't say it as a way of like expressing authority. They say it at like half volume under their breath together.
All right, that shakes me to my core just a little bit because that's fucking weird.
I'm gonna-
And that's Latin, yeah.
Certainly.
What's it mean?
I speak Latin.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So, as we sort of dove into last time, the clan La Sombra does have a very specific sort of, we'll just say, motto. And that motto is Morte Ascendo. It is something that they keep very close to their heart. And for them, it is about the basically, and if you directly translate it, it's the ascension of darkness, or in through darkness we rise. It Hearing it being uttered by multiple people in sync is probably skin crawling.
Well, perhaps we should get dinner sometime, Geneviève.
Hmm. Yes. I would love to have you both over for dinner sometime, and we could, who knows, maybe you could come over and you could get entertained in true Toreador fashion.
Oh, that sounds lovely. As long as my sire lets me.
And that's Isabella, you said?
Oh, Isabella, isn't she beautiful?
Mm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Up,
Almost as pretty as you. I'll wink at Geneviève.
Genevieve, you hear the footsteps of Casilda coming closer. You can tell it's her by the way she walks. Ladies, you see something that does not fit the rest of this picture. You see a strikingly beautiful but blonde woman walk over. She's dressed in very light clothing, whites and perhaps some yellows. And she very carefully leans down, sort of into the right side of your ear here. Genevieve, and says, "We're going to get started. You should take your seat." She
I
nods,
nod.
nods to
We all nod.
the both of you, Emerenzi and Ophelia.
Oh, sure. I'll get back to.
So you hear a sound overhead, and it sounds like a bell being
It's
rung.
good to see you, Genevieve.
Big bell. There's some shuffling in front of you as far as who's sitting where, Genevieve, and a space is made at the seat in front of the bishop. And you see Isabella sit in front of him. And the rest of the clan sort of begins to change into, like, they were sitting sort of in we'll say like an oval pattern here because of how many there are. And now they're beginning to reshape themselves into what looks more like a pointed triangle. And when they do, there is a hollow portion of that. And that is where you end up sitting, next to your sire, with the bishop behind you. And Isabella leans over and puts her hand on your left hand, almost in a matronly sense. And she says, "This will decide everything."
That's very ominous, but
People begin to exit from some of the dark spaces beyond the fire as this bell overhead continues to ring. It's being hit by what it must be a very soft mallet. It's creating a very dull bass and sort of resonant tone throughout the hall here. And one by one, members of the clans begin standing up. They rise from their seats. Those of you who are here for the first time, if you don't rise, you get instructed to do so by your sires. 5 people walk into this space. They are robed in dark clothing, tunics or classical sort of toga robes from the Roman or Hellenic era. Some of them wear sashes, some of them wear headdresses, others are wearing what looks like fine jewelry. And they assemble in front of this pit that is stoked with coals. When they do so, a large, almost impossibly large man comes in behind them and places a long iron bar with a sharp point at the top of it into the center of this pit. And you see that there's a wide plate at the bottom of it. And he connects it and then begins stoking the coals up. And you can watch this iron bar begin to take in some of the heat. Emerenzia, you notice that one of the men in the dark robes that's standing in front of you, in front of the entire assembly, is Patronus. He steps forward and says, "It is in our nature as kindred to choose what happens to our spaces, those places we call our home. It is by Michael's guidance that the clans here are given a space to call their own, to rule, to help control the city and its people, to guide them to his perfect vision of what this Constantinople can be. And that's when you all begin to hear people physically struggling in the background. You start seeing people get walked in. Two people specifically. They're being handled by men on both sides. Men with clear physical power. And they keep them in the back for the moment, just out of the light. In the recent weeks, there has been an upheaval in our city. The Latin Quarter has been the site of a series of ruinous attacks. And while many of these are sparked by mortal concerns over the failing empire in the West, it is clear to our Lord that choices were made, decisions, and those who lacked the vision to take action must be punished. And it is in his name that we will sentence them. Ophelia, you see a man you know get brought into the light of this space. He gets stood next to this pit, which has now a fire going within it. Not too terribly close, but close enough that you can tell that a man that you once saw within the Bruja Senate, Trebonius, is here. You can hear the murmur and the shock that goes through your clan that he is present. He has been bound by iron bars across his arms and chest. As a member of the clan, he is clearly blessed with Bruja's gift for strength. And these men are struggling to keep him under control. It is known the Latin Quarter was given to Clan Bruja. It was yours to protect and to hold, along with Clan Ventru. Your inaction and failure to lead led to countless deaths, countless mortal lives upended, but kindred deaths as well. And it is those lives which you will pay for.
There is a fury coursing through me.
Yes, you join many of your clan in opposition, and your sire stands up and at the top of his lungs says, "By what right do you hold final death? By what right would you sentence this man? He is one of us. You do not rule us." And the rest of Clan Bruja gets real angry real quick. You can feel it in your own blood. You can feel your entire body getting hot and beginning to sort of course with this agitation. Patronus, for his part, raises a hand and sort of grabs the attention of most of the room. It's a clear display of kindred powers from Clan Toreador. It works on many of the kindred here, but not all of them. And Patronus says, "We will hear no protest. There will be no discussion. These are Michael's laws and his order. It is by his name that we condemn them." It doesn't necessarily stop your clan, but it doesn't keep Patronus from moving on. He turns to the other portion of the room, which is dark, the scrambling subject. And you see a man walk out, a man two of you know by sight. You see Antonio be marched out. And you see a man behind him as well. And Patronus turns and says, "Antonio and your sire, Eprius, you held the keys as domestic prefect to the Latin Quarter. Your failure to act and control and quell the riots is inexcusable. I strip you of domestic prefect." And you see Eprius almost sort of laugh. He chuckles genuinely. And you hear from inside this ancient Ventru You hear his voice resonate throughout the room, a powerful speaker. He says, Patronus is but a title. It is clear to us that the Latin Quarter was a failure, but a failure that our leader, Michael, could never see. He wants for many things. He wants this to be a place which all can come and live, but these are not the way. We cannot have the Latin rabble here. This alone causes some consternation within many of the kindred who are here, who are from the Latin spaces and who lived in the Latin Quarter. Many of the survivors of that quarter are probably in the crowd here. Geneviève, you hear a voice in your ear. It says one word, and one word alone. It says, remember. And all the fog lifts from your brain. In a single solitary moment, you remember everything. You remember it long enough to watch your sire get put on an iron spike.
Is there a roll that I have to make to keep myself?
100%. You are going to have to roll self-control. Because you are likely going to frenzy.
So is it just the 2 dice for my self-control then?
You bet. That's how self-control works.
I mean, that plays into my nature, so.
It sure does.
I got 1 success.
Okay. So normally I would say that you'd be able to hold it together. Unfortunately for you, you are blood bonded to Antonio. He is someone who you have a multi-step bond to. It is, in effect, the man that you gave your entire life to. You begin to react. So I'd love for you to tell us what your planned action would be to do when you see this.
Well, what I'd love to do is keep myself in check because,
Okay.
power is everything
Sure. Okay.
to me. But
It's one success for this, for given the bond is not going to be enough to keep you
from not reacting.
reacting. No, you'd have to be made of stone not to react. And you're not made of stone.
No. How many people are in front of me?
Well, more than a couple, but not
Oh.
terribly many. The one of the people that is in front of you is Pietro. You know that Isabella is on your left-hand side, that Casilda is on your right, and that the bishop is sitting behind you.
And am I just, when you explained the room,
Mhm.
is it stone seating?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. This is a traditional, we'll say Greco-Roman style auditorium. So it's just basically polished stone slabs. There are 0 creature comforts in here.
Yeah, I will let out a big, that's a terrible word to describe it. I will let out a really terrifying scream
Mhm.
of agony,
realizing
realizing what's happening.
You scream. And likely, while I won't go far with the narrative description for you, you likely have a physiological reaction to it. It would be like you watching the love of your life be put on a spit, which is effectively what's happening. You get held down. You stand up out of reflex because you don't want this to happen. You want something, you want someone to, you want to save him. And you get planted back in the seat. And you feel very strong hands sort of force your gaze onto that scene. And the voice in your right ear from the bishop says, "This is the endurance you must learn to be part of our clan. This is separating the wheat from the chaff. You were picked."
Who's holding me? Do I know who's holding me?
You recognize the bishop's voice. I would say also you recognize the feeling of his hands. You felt them last session, so
Who's to my right? Is it Pietro?
Casilda is to your right. Your
Oh,
Sire is to your left. Casilda is looking at you as if she feels bad for you, like genuinely. But almost like she's powerless to stop any of it. They lash him and then begin chaining him to the ground so that even in his struggle on this iron spit, that there is no egress. There is no way for him to get out.
yeah. I try to break free of the bishop's arms.
I won't. I'm happy to let you roll.
I'm sure it's not going to happen. He's much stronger than I am.
Potence is in clan, so it would be very unlikely you would be able to beat his successes. Should there be a roll. I will say that he does let you struggle, and at every moment and every turn as you struggle, and you think you're close to getting out, you just don't have the strength to get past it. In your mind's eye, you can feel a thread deteriorating. You can feel a collapse happening. You feel his presence, his mental presence reaching out to you. You feel all of Antonio's pain and anguish in these moments. And he desperately tries to reach you. Not in a physical sense, clearly, but you can feel his mind, a mind you have felt countless times. It just never materializes enough to form anything more than pain and anguish.
I'm desperately trying to reach out back to him to let him know that I'm sorry and I had no idea what was going on, that they made me forget about him.
You do everything you think you can. As he reaches the apex of that spit, you watch him struggle for some of his last moments. The iron spike eventually projects out of his mouth and he stops wiggling. It's at this point that Eprius, behind him, the one haughty member, the former now domestic prefect, looks a little concerned. And Patronus turns to Eprius and says, I do not relish your final moments, but we will have order in this city in the name of our Lord. And the entire room starts to get real bright. From a hallway behind the chapel, an exceedingly bright and golden light begins to arrive. You hear strange harmonic sounds begin to echo off of the stone chambers in here. Several of the kindred who were desperately clinging to the walls begin shifting away to get away from the light. A figure, no more than, say, 6 feet in stature, glides into the room. A winged figure, one made of malleable stained glass. He glides around the room. You see he has a accompaniment, people who follow him. They seem to be uttering these phrases. Those of you who speak Latin realize that they're offering him prayers. They're offering him praise. He comes around to where Eprius stands, and the glow dims just enough for you to make out his visage. He's undeniably the most handsome person you've ever seen. His clothing, if that is clothing and not, frankly, glass, is impeccable. And it's at that point you realize that Eprius has fallen to his knees. He is weeping, blood streaming from his face. He is desperately beseeching this person, this being, which must be Michael, for pity, for some sort of way to get out of his punishment. Michael's voice enters the chamber itself. It is the voice of a honeyed god. That's really the best way I can think of it. It is the most pleasing sound you have heard. And yet, what he utters is horribly, horribly weighty for you to hear. Even though none of you truly know Eprius at all. He says, "You have failed me, my servant. You have diminished the light of this city. And then any of our kindred here who have celerity see something just for a moment. The split second you see something. It's like a flash of light. And those of you with celerity see that Michael moved his arm just ever so slightly. And those of you without celerity don't see anything except Eprius cough. And his body is torn asunder. Just standing there. It is cut in half. Clan Bentru is speechless, which is saying something. Michael turns to the assembled kindred and the occasional ghoul and says, I understand this night has been difficult for many of you. I do not like to sit in judgment in these spaces and choose who lives or dies. There is no pleasure in this for me. I wish the kindred who were in the Latin Quarter who are gone were still with us, but they are not. And we will have order. For this dream must be allowed to live. And Michael turns from the assembled group, and this figure of stained glass walks from the amphitheater. And it's only at that point that do the rest of you realize that when Eprius was cut in half, so was Trebonus.
I'm still crying. Like, there's a lot of crying going on.
Dude, this is my own clan, and I'm afraid to breathe right now. I guess I don't really have to much, but like I am holding still, I'm watching in awe, and I am not talking or blinking at anybody. I am avoiding eye contact with any living or unliving thing. I just
Yeah. I mean, that's the muse. That's the muse. That is the font by which all of the creative and wonder and pleasurable things that go on in this city is stemmed from. And the first time you are seeing Michael in person, it is in a moment of judgment, and it is terrifying.
Well, yeah, and he's the muse for so many wonderful things. And I mean, look at, as much as you can directly look at a being like this, look at him. Of course, he's a muse for so much art and so many delightful things. But he also just hand penned Emerenzia's future nightmares. So he's the muse for all sorts of art tonight. And Emerenzia, for the first time, probably in her life, wants to blend in with the scenery more than ever before. So
Yeah,
I want to be a wallflower.
That totally makes sense. The disruption, the disruptive nature of the brouhaha really hasn't changed. Although I would say, for your understanding, Ophelia, when Michael was in the room, you didn't feel angry. There was a definitive lack of that riled up spirit when he was here. It comes back as soon as he leaves.
Yeah. And during the time that he was here, I listened to my sire, and I do not look directly at him.
Yeah. When Michael finally does vacate the space when his glow leaves. You can tell that many of Clan Bruja are less than pleased by what they feel is a um, overreach of vampiric powers. They certainly don't like being suppressed.
And I get that now.
Patronus calls an ending to the conclave. In his final words on stage, he tells the assembled kindred that there are consequences for not believing and understanding the dream and following through on what Michael has ordered. He does tell Clan Ventru that they may elect a new domestic prefect, one which will ideally uphold the law in the Latin Quarter as well. And he hopes that they will work with Clan Bruja, the Luxor family specifically, to iron out any differences moving forward. And then the gong sounds and people start filing out. That thread connection, Geneviève, that you had to Antonio is gone. There is no bond there anymore. It has been eradicated by his death. To say that that will have a profound effect on you is an understatement. But there's no more pull there, supernaturally anyway.
I look over at Isabella. Why? Why? Why make me remember? What does it matter?
It matters. You must know that pain is a tool.
Did the bishop release me?
Yeah, he's still there, but he's released
But
you.
he's released me? Yeah, I grab and choke Isabella.
Okay. You grabbed for her, and I'm happy to get into dice actions if you'd like. So if you're going to grab for her, go ahead and make a dex brawl roll.
All right, so I got 5 successes, but I also got a 1 on a die. Do I have to take away one of my successes for that, or is it?
Yeah, so ones are going to cancel in this regard.
Okay, so then I only got 4 successes.
Okay. So with Isabella, I am going to roll dex brawl as well. Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to parry or block you. I think that'd be fun. You go to choke her and she grabs your hands, like as you try to get them around her throat. And she looks you in the eye and says, "Truly, child, you think this will work?" And then on her action, she headbutts you. You are certainly welcome to roll Dex Athletics if you'd like to dodge.
I do.
Okay.
So I will roll that. I mean, I'm getting some great rolls, but then I get a 1. I got 5.
Okay. So I net 2 on you. I have 3 successes on my strength roll. I will elect to pull my potence from the damage. So take 6 points of bashing damage. We're going to get ads in about 30 seconds, folks. So if you're not subscribed, I apologize. Nothing I can do about the ads. I've sort of snoozed them off as best I can. But we'll get ads in a second. Actually, about 15. So you take some bashing. You are allowed to roll stamina. So go ahead and roll your stamina plus any fortitude to try to soak that damage. All right. Yeah, it's just a 1 minute ad. So,
I got 4 successes.
oh, good. Okay. So you end up taking 2 bashing. When she leans forward and she uses her forehead, it connects directly with the bridge of your nose, and you feel your nose pop. And then suddenly you see just fucking stars everywhere. It's at this point that you start feeling hands on you, other people's hands. The collection of La Sombra, including Pietro, begin grabbing at you.
I'm struggling. I mean, I'm not going to fight, but yeah.
You struggle. You struggle long enough to feel steel like at your throat. And it comes from a very unexpected place. But you eventually hear like Casilda try to calm you down because she doesn't want anything bad to happen to you. She's like, we have to get out of here. We can't have this incident. We can't have this happen here.
Yeah, I start to relent and let them pull me out of there.
Yeah, you get picked up in effect and collected by a series of La Sombra retainers. You can hear the bishop and Isabella speaking in Spanish behind you. The other ghoulies former ghoulies that are now vampires, see this exchange. It takes place in about 6 to maybe 10 seconds, and then it's over. But you are free to react to it now.
I don't say anything. I don't try to stop her. I don't try to go over and reason with her even after the fact, mostly because I know that I would have done the exact same thing if it had been Callius up there.
Yeah.
I would be looking for somebody to fight too.
They take you out of the room. I guess the last image that you probably have are, Isabella talking with the bishop. In the background of that is what remains of the scene and the spike and the shadow of the figure that has been driven onto it. The Dama says to you, Emerenzia, I would like you to make haste with plans to have Ophelia over for a social luncheon. To discuss things.
Of course. Sure. Sounds like it could be nice. Emerenzia will sort of be listening, but look to see if she can make at least eye contact again with either Ophelia or Geneviève before we're all drug opposite directions. Like, she's listening, because of course she'd listen to anything that Dama says, but
Sure. Certainly.
trying to catch a glance at the other girls before we all go our very different directions.
Yeah, it looks like Geneviève got pulled out pretty roughly. It looks like she may have attempted to take some fairly stern actions. And then as far as
Yeah.
Ophelia goes, she's standing with her sire, Callias, who is beginning to mill out towards the entranceway with the rest of Clan Bruja.
Yeah. Okay.
It would not be hard for the two of you to covertly come together as you're exiting. That would be pretty easy to do.
I will definitely attempt to do that.
Yep. I will as Callias starts to mill out, I will catch up with you in a few minutes, Master.
Of course. He continues on his way, and you're left to your own devices.
I'll be right along, Dama. I'll sort of nod towards Ophelia a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I'll incline my head like right here, waiting.
Scene's yours.
I won't keep you. Oh no, I meant Amarenzia saying that to the Dama.
Oh.
Um.
She probably says the same thing. The scene is yours. She gestures back.
Fair. I will. Ophelia, I would hope that you would be inclined to do this also, but I think we need to check in on Geneviève. The next possible moment we can do so without causing her more trouble.
Yes. And I have intentions of, if my master is willing, to see if we can't liberate her from that house.
Oh, good. I know that she didn't seem to be picking up what we were talking about before, but she sure seemed to remember at just the wrong time. And yeah, I just think that we should do whatever we can. If your master finds a way to liberate her, count me in. I'll help with whatever measures are taken to make that happen. You just let me know the time and the place.
I appreciate that. Whoever that clan is, because I don't know them yet, I do not like what they have done to her. They made her forget or something worse, and then manipulated her in the worst possible way that a person can be manipulated. And I can't approve of that. I'm pretty sure that they used a member of my clan and Clan Ventru as scapegoats for the lack of the willingness that they were willing to help put forth. The city is supposed to be one, especially amongst the clans. At least that's the kind of thing that they preach, and they are not following through on that. And I am furious with the lack of accountability that the others are holding. So
yeah,
things need to change. And I will not abide somebody that, helped save my life suffer in that way.
Yeah. Also, for whatever it's worth, I'm sorry tonight went the way that it did. I don't think that that's what you were hoping for when we went into this evening.
It is not what I was hoping for. I think that they do not actually know who the main culprits are, and they knew that some sort of justice needed to be enacted, so they just chose convenient people.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. For now, I'm glad that us and our sires, our masters, are all right for now. So again, God, my heart breaks for Geneviève. I can't imagine if anything happened to the Dama, if even somebody like put too many hairs out of place in a way that she wasn't having fun with, the way I would rain hell down upon them. I
Agreed.
cannot blame Geneviève at all for what she did, but I hope she survives long enough for her to get the help that she needs.
I will keep you apprised of what my master says. If he tells me no, or if he says that I need to come up with a solid plan or something to that effect, I will let you know, but I cannot make any promises. But that is my hope. So
Thank you. I am always just a missive away. Always.
So I want to lead us a little bit forward, if you don't mind.
Please.
Geneviève, you return to the church, and you are returned to the basement. That basement where you heard voices.
Behind the closed doors.
You are behind the closed doors, yes. In that space where the bishop keeps many things, including an altar and bookshelves and candles and all manner of finery. You are placed in that room. The door is shut. And after it's shut, from the other side, you hear Pietro's voice say, "You are to wait in silence until the bishop arrives."
So is Pietro in the room with me?
No,
Or did he leave?
It seems like he might be outside the door.
Is the room lit?
Yeah, there's a couple of
Okay.
candles here, so you can certainly see in the space.
The multifaceted whip that the bishop used on me last time, is that in the room still?
You do not see it.
So what's in the room that I can pick up?
So as far as things you could pick up, probably a couple of candlesticks. There are some larger books. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem anything that would be fashionable as a weapon. There's no fireplace in this room, so there's no like fireplace poker or something like that.
I was thinking about more of using something to harm myself.
Oh,
As
okay.
in, it's one of those things, causing yourself enough pain to forget about the psychological pain.
Certainly, yes. I am familiar with certain types of castigation that were done during those times. For something like that, you could potentially try to find pain through hot wax that would be available to you. that would be the most readily pain-inducing thing that you think you could probably visit upon yourself. You could brain yourself in the head with a candlestick too, if you really wanted to, but that's
Do
sort
that.
of a little bludgeony. It might be interesting to see how red your flesh gets with hot wax on it, and how your body responds to something like that.
Yeah, I'll take a different
Certainly.
road, and I will. So it's the altar, and the room is so the altar is in the middle of the room.
Yep,
Okay, so I'm gonna go behind the altar, and is there a wall back there?
there is.
Okay, so I'm gonna just as quietly as I can, because I'm supposed to be in silence.
Hmm.
Start punching the wall with my bare fists as
Yep.
hard as I can.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, with having ghoul potence, you certainly after a couple of swings, you start obviously cracking some of the brick that's here. You don't have any semblance of fortitude. There's no way for you to soak the damage that you're going to do to your body. And so you beat your fists bloody probably fairly quickly. Um, that it certainly is intensely painful after a while. I imagine, although I won't put words in your mouth, I imagine Genevieve has the willpower to continue through that.
Yep,
Um,
I do, based on my previous training and
right.
all the other things I've done.
So you keep it up. You break 3 or 4 bricks pretty definitively. They crumble into dust. You eventually break through far enough to get to what you think are the maybe some of the outer wall bricks, so like the brick layer that is beyond the interior one. And it's at that point that the door behind you opens. You feel exhausted, like physically exhausted, not just from the pain, but the physical exertion. And standing in the doorway is the bishop. And you see behind him that Pietro's opened the door and is now shutting it as the bishop steps in.
I don't turn and face the bishop.
It's unfortunate. I rather liked that wall.
And apparently I really like that person that you guys had killed.
That we had killed. I'm not so certain you understand the truth.
And enlighten me, Father.
I'm happy to. Are you done being a child?
Well, it was either beat the wall or beat Pietro's face, and I
I might like to see that someday. But I like Pietro and his face. He serves us well. Antonio made a choice. In fact, he and I met together several times. He sought religious counsel from me not but 10 years ago. He was a troubled man in many ways. But Clan La Sombra had no hand in his death. For your former master dug that for himself. He chose to take steps He chose you to raid his own master's villa, to plunder a vault for a what? A piece of metal? The sword is only as good as the one who wields it. Clan Lassamra did not ask for this sword. We did not put him up to this. Do you realize why I sent Isabella and Casilda to retrieve you? Do you understand truly, child, why?
No.
And I will enlighten you. We knew about the plan. We knew about Adelaide. We knew about Kalias. We knew it all. We knew what they were risking. We know what they're after and what they plucked. And we knew that it would bring ruin in the short term on Clan Ventru, in the long term on Clan Toreador. And if the Bruja are not careful, their words will fan fires that will burn this city. That is what that clan does. I sent them to retrieve you because you remind me of me. You're an echo of the person I grew up to be. And I didn't want to see you go to waste. And you would have been wasted. Talent, power, good breeding, wasted. And for what? From some old man's desire to rule the city that he'll never be able to control? Your master was many things, but Clan Venture will never rule this city truly. Not now, and not in 100 years. If you like, I can simply let the Eighth Council know that you were part of what Eprius and your master planned to do, which was to undermine Michael, which is why they are dead. Or you can choose a different path. One which will allow you to speak with your master anytime you like. He grins a very toothy, fanged smile.
Which master?
Oh, the one you saw perish tonight. His voice is here if you listen for it. It is certain he sits inside of oblivion. Let it speak to you. Don't do it for me. Do it for you.
I sit quiet for a while to see if I can hear the voices. Almost to the point of I'm holding my breath as to not breathe, and because then I might miss something.
Okay. So I'm going to have you roll conviction. Because I think we both know conscience isn't a trait you have.
I got 5 successes.
That's fantastic. The room darkens. The candles dip low. And when the candles dip low and the room darkens, the outline of the bishop is all you see. The rest of the space is darkness and tiny little pinpoints of light which exist here. Starlight. There's this beautiful splash of ebony across the ceiling. And the world and the figures within split. And you see beyond the space here into a darkness which exists inside you, but also here in this space. And there are floating apparitions, fleshless forms that move about the space, long, tenebrous shadows that sit on a bleak purple background. And they call to you. They call your name, the one you hide in your heart. They float closer. Their arms become this series of long black shadows. They crawl over the body of the bishop who stands here. And you see with your own eyes where the tentacles come from, the ones that held you down. There's a sea of them in the blackness here. Each one has a series of nodules or these strange circular suckers. And then all along the edges, there are mouths. And the mouths have voices. And you can hear Antonio's voice in them. And you realize how weak he was. And how much stronger you are.
I still feel I mean I'm still crying because I'm still hearing Antonio's voice, but I take my bloodied hands and, wipe the tears away.
Sure.
So now I probably have like
Mm-hmm.
my face is all red.
Certainly. The tentacles encircle you. They try to wrap you up and get as close as they can to you. They constrict. But only for a moment. and then they release and then constrict again. And you feel as if they're trying to crawl over your form. There are other presences here. You feel them, you see them, other forms. You see Casilda, you see Isabella. They walk here as well. Other members of the clan make themselves known to you visually. They say nothing, each one of them adorned with their own crown of oblivion. And in a moment, the wails of Antonio are pierced by pain at your neck as you feel something bite you. And all the pain in your hands and the pain in your heart bleed away. All that's left is bliss and the constricting feeling on your limbs and torso as oblivion takes your body and the blood that is in it. And in that darkness, I'm going to leave us. I leave us at rest. And our audience to enjoy, hopefully, the next episode. So I want to thank you for taking part in Stealing Immortality, the Old Ways Twitch Dark Ages Vampire Tale. I want to thank my cast. I would love for them, if they would, to let us know who they are, who they've been playing, and then where we can find them. If they have anything else they would like to plug for what they do, please go right ahead. I have been your storyteller. My name is Michael Diamond. I am Chief Catalyst at the Old Ways. My pronouns are he, him. I had a fantastic time. I hope you did too. Cass, take it away.
Hi, this is Morgan. I play Geneviève de Montfort, or Maria, uh, whatever you want to call me. Clan La Sombra. My pronouns are she, her, and I am an Old Ways podcast cast member. And you can usually find me derping around on Discord talking about things. And yeah, this has been fun. We'll see if next time, if I was, if he drained me of my blood or made me a vampire or did both. It's anyone's game at this point.
Indeed.
Hi, I'm Bunny. I play our increasingly concerned but otherwise still party animal, Emerenzia. Our pronouns are she, her. And I'm worried about my other ghoulie. I'm having a hard time. That being said, you can find me have a less hard time playing things like Yakuza or speedrunning or doing all sorts of stuff over on my channel, Fiery Ashes here on Twitch. I'm just finishing moving tonight as soon as I skedaddle from this computer. And then I'll go back to streaming on a normal schedule next week. We'll be having parties to celebrate the new house and all sorts of stuff. So if you want to come say hi so I can celebrate you, you can do that all of next week pretty much. So
Betcha. Was this your first stream from the new place, or did you?
Mhm.
Sweet.
This is the first time my computer has even been on in the new place. Are you kidding?
We are
This
blessed.
is first stream, first content, all the things.
We are blessed to have that. Thank you so much. And last but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Allie. I've been playing Ophelia Celos of Clan Bruja, and I hope that it's not too late for me to liberate her from this terrible place. Poor Geneviève. I am a cast member on the Old Ways podcast primarily in the games of Mage the Ascension, which just had its season 1 finale, and Delta Green. So you can find me there in those episodes, and on the Discord I hang out pretty regularly. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, I think it was said already best by my reactions. I will congratulations all of you for a fantastic evening. Chat, thanks for being so amazing. We appreciate it. And thank you for those who are staying up late and tuning in. You know who you are. And so we will see you over on Patreon a little bit with the next Final Reflection episode. And we'll see you in a little bit for the next episode here. So thanks a bunch and good night.